Welcome to the Next Level Facebook Ads Podcast with Phil Graham. We help you master Facebook ads and give you an unfair advantage over your competition. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Next Level Facebook Ads Podcast, episode 446. I'm Phil Graham. Today, we're going to be talking about how I test new Facebook and Instagram ads without wasting money. First and foremost, this is November 25th. Thanksgiving is in a couple days here in the U.S. And so if you are in the U.S., I want to wish you guys a very, very happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have an amazing weekend, and it should be a lot of fun. So I'm glad you guys are here because I'm going to be sharing my exact process I use for testing new ads, again, without what I would consider wasting money. There are so many advertisers that either over-test and they really blow their budget out, or they under-test, which I think is pretty common as well, and they end up learning nothing. In this episode, I'll be showing you how I test efficiently and strategically, which I think can make a big difference. So before diving in, if you guys are looking for any help with your ads, whether that's one-on-one coaching, or you want somebody to run your ads for you, for either one of those things, just go to my website, philgrahamdigital.com, or DM me on Instagram at philgrahamdigital, and I would love to connect with you. Also, a quick note. Yes, I do a little plug every episode for my services, but I got to tell you, I get inundated all the time with people wanting to advertise on this podcast, and I always say no, because other than my little plug for my services, which takes a few seconds, I want this to be an ad-free zone where it's just full value for you guys. And I will probably always do that. That's how it's been for the last 7+ years or 8 years that I've done this podcast. And that is how it's going to continue to be, because I always like having these episodes short, sweet, full of value, and very actionable for you guys. So with that being said, let's talk about how I test new ads without wasting money. So what is the goal of testing? The goal of testing is about learning through data, not guessing and not randomness, but having a strategy in place and then learning through data. It's not about necessarily winning right away. The goal is to identify what type of ads, creatives, ad copy, and audiences get attention and what doesn't before you go to scale it. So I think of each test as buying data that tells me what works and tells me what doesn't work. You could have a test that might not work, but it could save you from spending a huge amount of money on something that doesn't work. That could be considered a win. So a lot of people think of testing in the wrong way. You might win even if it doesn't look like it right away. And so I think that's very important to understand. So let's start talking about how to test. One of the most important things that I focus on is testing one variable at a time. This is one of the biggest mistakes I make. I'd say there's two big mistakes with testing that I see people making all the time. One of them is really just not testing and just randomly doing things without a strategy. And the other thing is they think they're testing, but there's tons of variables. So no matter what happens, good or bad, they're not going to know why it happened. So you might as well not have even tested in the first place because there's just way too many variables. Now, there may be a situation where it's okay to do it like that every once in a while for a certain ad. But if you're testing specifically, you want to have one variable at a time. Don't test 5 things at once. You'll never know what caused the change, good or bad. Focus on one main variable per test, whatever that might be. It might be your creative, it might be your audience, it might be your offer, it could be your headline, could be your overall ad copy, or even just the hook at the beginning of your ad copy. It might just be an emoji in the headline versus not having one. So it's very important to test one variable at a time. So if you guys are not testing right now, or you don't think you're testing in the right way, here's where I think you should start. Start with something with your ad. Test 2 or 3 different ads, whether it's an image versus a video, or maybe it's ad copy 1 versus ad copy 2, where they have different hooks. But create 2 or 3 different creatives where there's only one difference between each of those. And then send all 3 of those ads, which will be different by one thing, send them to the same audience, and then measure through data which gets attention and which doesn't, what's working well, what's not. And depending on your budget, I would probably let it run at least a couple weeks unless you had a really large budget. And that's where I would start with testing. Now, when it comes for budgets for testing, here's something I think is very important. You do not have to spend a ton. And it really depends on what your overall budget is. Because for somebody with a large budget, $500 a day might be their testing budget. Whereas somebody else, it might be $10 a day. So it does depend on your overall ad spend and budget. But if I'm talking in generalities without knowing your actual account, then I would say you can usually get away with spending 10 or 15 bucks a day per ad that you're testing in a lot of situations. You don't necessarily have to spend a lot more than that. Now, I wouldn't spend $5 a day. I wouldn't go lower than that. $10 a day is usually my lowest that I like to go on any ads for that matter. So I would try not to go lower than 10, but don't feel like you have to go a whole lot higher because you may not have to. And then in terms of timing, I already mentioned this, but I would let it run for at least a couple weeks unless you have a really large budget. Do not panic if the first couple days it might look horrible. Meta needs time to learn and it needs to cycle through people in the audience. And so don't panic and change something too fast because you might just be shooting yourself in the foot. And when you're looking at data early on, you might want to look at the engagement you're getting on the ad and also the click-through rate and the cost per click first. You might want to focus on that because sometimes it takes a while to get conversions, even on ads that work for various reasons. And then in terms of like what to watch, you want to watch for patterns. You don't want to watch just individual ads after 2 days. You want to look at patterns of information after typically a couple weeks and compare and contrast the different ads together and make sure, again, there's only one variable. And that can be a game changer in certain situations. And then when it comes time to scale, let's say you have identified a specific ad that you've tested where the ad copy and the hook is crushing it, the image or the video is doing great, and the headline, then you can take that winning creative and you can really expand it and scale it out. You can put more budget on it. You can send it to new audiences. Like you can do a lot with it, but continue to test as you scale it out. Don't just randomly scale it. And so that's how I test ads without wasting money. And when I say wasting money, I mean, for me, if I learn something, I haven't wasted money because I'm going to take action based off of what I learned and then use that as part of my strategy for what to do next instead of just randomly running things. So I hope that was helpful. Make sure you guys are not only testing, but you're testing in the right way. And next week, I've got a great episode for you guys. It's going to be the first week of December, and we're going to talk about holiday ads for the home stretch. Even if you're not e-commerce, this is going to apply to you. We're going to talk about some smart Facebook and Instagram ad moves that you guys can make for the month of December. And as always, just a reminder, it's always important to point out that every business is unique. Results can vary. There's no guaranteed outcomes. So always keep that in mind. But with that being said, episode 446 is in the books. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you're in the US, I hope you have an amazing Thanksgiving, and I will talk to you on next week's episode. Peace out.
Thanks for listening to the Next Level Facebook Ads Podcast. Please remember to subscribe and share this with all your friends. For show notes, more tips, and to learn more about Phil, please visit philgrahamdigital.com/podcast.